Hello, and welcome to the Guilbault Girls Show, where you will have the opportunity to hear from mothers, fathers, siblings, and individuals themselves about their journey of living with a disability. I know, it's called Guilbault Girls, but we have a bonus for you as we get the Guilbault boys to interview some of the dads and siblings and get their perspectives too. We'll also have special guests from time to time to share the many resources that are available to those living with a disability and their families. So get ready to laugh, smile, cry, maybe even get a little angry when you hear some of these stories of their day-to-day struggles. But let's not forget their many triumphs. As they say, it takes a village. And if it weren't for our village, we wouldn't be where we are today. So join us. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Guilbault Girls Show. I'm your host, Karen Guilbault, and today's guest is Laurieann Enright. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay, awesome. Laurieann is a single parent to John and Nicholas, her beautiful identical twin boys. In February 2017, at the age of 5, they were diagnosed with nonverbal autism, global developmental delays, and intellectual disabilities. She's battled aggressive triple-negative breast cancer from 2018 to 2019, and she's so grateful to still be here to care for her amazing boys who are now 11. During her cancer battle, she also went through a nasty divorce. She works full-time as a paralegal to provide for her sons. She also has 3 wonderful adult children, and then the boys and Laurieann moved back to California this summer to be closer to them. She soldiers on through her days without complaining because she knows how blessed she is. She's fueled by grit and grace. Her sons make her laugh even on the days when she's too tired to smile. She thinks of herself as a hermit because it's not practical for her to take the boys anywhere by herself. She makes her home life as full as she can. So first of all, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your story. You've been tested over and over again with having twin boys with, both with special needs, going through, a bad relationship, battling cancer, having no financial support with backing for different things, and having to work a full-time job all while juggling the boys. That's a lot. That's a lot for one person. I honestly could not even begin to imagine. And divorce is hard on all families. No one gets married thinking that they're going to get divorced. And similarly, no one imagines that their babies will have special needs, let alone twins, both of them. Combine the two and you can get a challenging and potentially volatile situation. I read that in the American Journal of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, they state that 80% of couples that have a child with special needs will get divorced by the time that the child reaches 21. With that being said, I felt it was important to have some guests on the show to share their experiences as single parents because, it's hard. It's hard when there's 2 parents involved. And when it's so important to be able to share your story and let others know that they're not alone. You've got through a lot. You're still going through a lot. You can do it at the end of the day, have the faith. And so I just want to thank you. And, let's start from the beginning. So you're married, you give birth to your beautiful baby boys. At what age were the boys when you noticed something wasn't right? Or what were some of those red flags, if you will, that you saw that led you to even get them tested? How did that go?
Interesting, because we were getting ready to move to Florida from California. And I wanted to get them caught up on all their shots and everything. So they had all their shots. We drove cross country. When we got there, I just noticed they went from being very chatty to now it kind of being sound effects. And John started walking on his tippy toes. And Nick would do this flapping thing. And I was in an online program hoping to go to law school and get my JD. So I was so focused on that. I wasn't thinking, like really paying attention that something was off. And then as it went on, I would be sitting in class thinking, they don't even want me. Where my older children would, if I was sitting too long, focus on something else, they'd be pulling me off the chair. It'd be this. They were like kind of in their own world, doing their own thing. And I could be in class for an hour and they wouldn't so much as, do anything to distract me in any way. So I thought that was kind of odd. And then everyone was telling me, because I've never had twins. So I'm like, this is weird. They were talking a bit, earlier on. And I know there's that issue with, is it the vaccines? Isn't it? I think it was a perfect storm for my boys. Vaccines, the glyphosate, because all the GMO stuff, and they were on soy formula after I nursed. And my age, I was 43. So I just think it was a combination of everything. And but everyone kept saying to me, listen, they don't need you. They don't have to talk to you because they have each other and they have twin talk. It's the twin dynamic. So I bought into that. And they, it was, oh, by the time they're 3, they're going to have an explosion of speech, yada, yada, yada. Well, I bought into that because I'm thinking they're so well behaved. They're just great little boys. So, okay, maybe that's it. The twin dynamic. So the day after their 3rd birthday, there was no explosion of speech. And I said, no, this is, I'm not buying the twin dynamic. Something's not right.
Right.
And we got into UF, the Dr. Childers, who's like the guru down there for autism.
Okay.
And it took us a year and a half to get an appointment.
Wow.
So a whole, so I'm Googling different things you can do. So I immediately had them in speech therapy and occupational therapy. And while we waited. So we get in, they do the evaluation over several days. And then it would seem like almost a year later, we got a diagnosis. I mean, it was such a long process, but they were diagnosed on February 8th, 2017. And I was up in New Jersey at my parents' with them on February 17th because the services in New Jersey were far superior to anything that I could find in Florida.
Yeah.
And so my reaction when they were diagnosed, I believe that I'm like circling back to your actual
No, you're
question,
fine. You're fine. Yep. Go ahead.
was I felt validated because I knew something was off. Something, I shouldn't even say that, something was different about them. And so to get the diagnoses for them was the one that got to me was the intellectual disability. Because I said to them, because basically that's the politically correct term for the R word. And that was very stifling to, just jolting to hear, because I knew they understood, they followed direction. And he explained to me, he said, listen, these are labels, and these are the labels you need to get services. And you will come to me in a couple years, and one of these diagnoses will be removed. Until then, we need to get them all the services that they can get to ensure that they progress. So my response to getting their diagnoses was just, okay, this all makes sense now. Okay, now I've got something, and now I know what I need to do. So I can move forward. My ex-husband, complete denial, and he was telling me I was drinking the Kool-Aid. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. Autism is the new cancer. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. There's nothing wrong with them. And so being up in New Jersey, it was perfect. And that's, after being up there a year is when I filed. So I was like,
when they ended up how old were they when you got the diagnosis of intellectual disability?
they were almost 5. So it was February 2017, and they turned 5 in July.
Okay.
2017.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that a lot of times that they diagnose them later on to see where they're at. Like,
you would think that makes perfect sense, but that's not how it was. The interesting thing is, looking at the neurology report, autism is their secondary diagnosis. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
Mhm.
So how long did you live in New Jersey for that period with them in school and
We were there from February 2017, and we just moved back here we got here June 6th, 2023.
okay.
So 5 years, right?
Okay.
No, 6 years. Six
Okay.
years.
Yeah, that's hard too, just because of, I mean, you got to do your due diligence if you move anywhere, because the services are so different from state to state. And like, I know now that Faith is older and she's on the one of the developmental disability waivers, the family support waiver. Um, some of those, I mean, like I know in Florida, it's so different. Like I wouldn't be able, like I'm hired on to actually be my daughter's personal supports right now at the moment. And we have a thing where it's called self-direct. So instead of actually funneling through an agency, she's her own like employer, if you will. And then we get she has a financial management company and she has a support broker and then her service coordinator, but you have so much more say and choice on your services versus going the traditional way. There's pros and cons to each way you go, but I don't even think in Florida has a self-direct program. I just know that there's so many differences from state to state on what's available, which is
Florida didn't have much to offer at all. And the neurologist was terrific. Because I said, he literally looked at me dead in the face, not at my ex-husband. And we were sitting right next to each other. He leaned in and looked directly at me and he said, "Your life as you know it is over."
Mhm.
And, I really didn't think much of it. And I wouldn't say my life was over.
Over.
I mean,
It's
I've
just
had a good
different.
life. It's just, I have a new normal now.
Yes.
And to be honest, I don't mind being a hermit. I really don't. I mean, look at what's going on out there in the world today. And when COVID hit, I could have TED Talks on how to get through COVID. Because I would
That's our
call,
life.
my friends would call hysterical. They're losing their minds. They're so upset. And I'm like, welcome to my
My
world.
world.
The
Yeah.
only thing I did differently during COVID was wiping all the groceries down, because
Mhm.
I was having them delivered because I couldn't go out with the
Mhm.
boys. I mean, I used to. I loved going to Target with them because they had the big carts, but that was like a CrossFit session navigating that
That
thing with
aisles.
down the aisles. And but I did it because it got us out.
Right.
As they got older and stronger, I just couldn't risk, if, one of them pulled away from me.
Mhm.
What am I going to do? Drag the other one to try to catch? It would just be disastrous. So I really limit the things that I do to limit the risk of something happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I know it's not ideal, but, they're safe. And
Yeah.
that's my main, keeping them
Right.
safe and keeping them healthy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. What so are they still in any therapies? How long were they in occupational therapy, speech, any of that? How long
no, they're
still?
still, it's
Mhm.
with, yeah, when we were in New Jersey, they were in speech and OT. They have adaptive PE. Now that we're in California, and it's interesting, because this school is more academic,
Okay.
whereas the other school, we were doing a lot of ABA,
Mm-hmm.
and basically, they were almost being prepped to, and this is going to come out the wrong way, but basically that the best I could hope for is that they would be able to bag groceries.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't going to cut it for me because I know how smart they are. They understand everything and they can read. They're great at math. And we come out here and the school explained, listen, we get why they were doing all they were doing in New Jersey with the ABA and, the living skills, the life skills. That's very important. But they're really smart boys and they read, why weren't they ever taught how to write?
Yeah.
They weren't taught handwriting. But see, they're great on the keyboard. And I didn't make a big deal about that because my feeling is if you look at neurotypical kids today, they're on phones. I don't know how much handwriting is. And I think I even heard at one point they were discontinuing cursive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not all that upset about that because
So
they
are
do
they
have
on the diploma track right now? Or are they on the certificate track?
I believe the certificate track right now. But I don't think they're calling it anything. They just started in August here. So it's only been a few months and just the transition for them. The teachers here are like, they have literally jumped in because they're creatures of habit. They like consistency. They need their everything has to be, the same. And for them, the first day of school, when the parents and the teacher came out to the car to get them, because I pull up and that's how they do it. They're greeted right from the car. I'm thinking these are strangers to them, complete strangers. This is a new building. It's everything is brand new to them. And I'm thinking I cried all the way home thinking how frightened they must be, how unsettling this is for them. But when I picked them up, they were great. They were happy. I was just, and the teacher came out and said they did really well because they were prepared too for it being a really, really difficult transition. So they're really, I need to give them more credit, basically. My need to protect them sometimes may actually be a disservice for them.
Yeah, and I do the same thing with Faith. I think we're all guilty to some degree of that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So do they have services OT and PT and speech outside of school, or do they just have it in school?
Just in school. Just in school.
And then, so did you have an outlet or anything specific that helped you cope during those overwhelming moments? I mean, let's go into the point of when you were diagnosed. Like, so here you are with the boys, you're already overwhelmed. Then you're in a messy relationship, nasty divorce, cancer. Like, what was going through your head? Like,
well, of course, the first thing, sitting across, and I do have to say, September 6th was 5 years since I was diagnosed, given 15 months, statistically. And I sat across the table at the desk from my doctor who said, we do this Nottingham scale score. And he said the highest is a 3 for the most aggressive, number 3 for the quickest spreading, and 3 for the highest rate of recurrence. He said, you got a 9. And I said, well, at least I got a perfect score. I'm such a great student. And he looked at me and he reached over and he grabbed my hand and he said,
knew you were going to beat it right there because your attitude.
Hold on to that. That is going to get you through this. And sense of humor has always been my defense mechanism. You don't ever want to sit next to me in church, at a funeral, because, that is my defense mechanism and that gets me through. And it's really true, laughter is the best medicine. I decided, the interesting thing was a month before I was diagnosed, I started reading the Bible.
Okay.
And my friend, who's amazing, I will say something about my day, and she will say, "Oh, that's in Matthew 7:12." Like, and I think, how do you do that? And then she said, "Well, I read the Bible several times and blah, blah, blah." And I said, "How did you even start reading that?" I mean, I remember opening the book thinking, I can't even pronounce some of these 3 or 4 syllable names.
Names.
Back then, how come they didn't have, Joe? It was like, Nebuchadnezzar and all.
Uh-huh.
What? And so I said, "Do you start from the first page and go to the end? How do you read this? Because it's different stories."
Mhm.
And she said, "I just held it one day and said, Lord, what message do you have for me?"
Mhm.
So I was like, okay. So this was August. Opened the book, and it opened to the very first page of the book of Job.
I, I'm actually watching a Bible study right now on Job. And when we go to Bible study on Wednesday nights, but they ended up they have it's called Media Now, and I can't tell you how many free things are in this library that our church has for us. And I ended up picking Job, and I think I have 2 more sessions of it.
But what was crazy was, so my friend, when I told her I'm reading Job, oh my God, and she said, "You're like the modern day Job.
Job.
This man, marrying this man, you lost your home, you lost your cars, you were stripped of your older kids, you were moved 3,000 miles away from them, isolated. You lost all your friends, all your money, everything." And so, and then a month later, I'm diagnosed. So I call her and I said, "It's cancer." Dead silence. And then she said, "Now your flesh is being attacked. I told you you were the modern day Job. So it's going to come back tenfold. This is a beautiful thing. You are going to be just fine. I know you're going to be fine." And so that's how I started reading the
Mhm.
Bible. And it was just unbelievable that that is what I opened up to.
Too.
And when you read that, and you'll see it does end very well,
Well, yeah. You
but
already got me tearing up twice so far, and I'm not we're only
sorry. I mean,
wow.
I'm saying laughter is the best medicine, and I'm sorry.
But no, it's tears of joy because it's, like look at all that you've overcome,
Yeah.
I went to a women's retreat what was it, last month, and it was amazing because all of the speakers somehow they were all touched by some type of disability. So there was Laura Story. She's a singer. She sings the song Blessings. I bought her book. I bought the study guide to it, and then I just got the DVDs, and it's When God Can't Fix It. Her husband ended up with a brain tumor, and then ended up with a traumatic brain injury. And I'm only in like part 3, but I saw heard her testimony and everything. And then another one, she had a stroke 6 months after her son was born. Um, Catherine Wolf, and she actually has, and you should look into it. It's in Alabama. Um, it's a camp, and it's called Hope Heals, and it's free, and it's for family. So it's not just for the child with the disability, it's for the whole family to go to. And then the other one, she had 5 kids. One she had biologically had Down syndrome. The second one she actually adopted with Down syndrome. Like, I don't know, it was just like there were so many, it was just. And then the other one was oh my gosh, I can't remember her name now. Byler. She was Amish. She was the one, Ann Byler from Annie Ann's Pizza. Not Annie Ann's Pizza. What am I talking about? Annie's Pretzels.
Okay.
Gideon's pretzels. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then it had her story where she was her 19-month-old baby was walking from her house to her mother's house. They lived on the same property, something that she always did, like for her second breakfast. And she ended up hearing this terrible screaming, and she knew something happened, and there comes her father carrying the baby. And apparently the sister was on like a machine. I don't know, there was a forklift or what it was, moving some stones or whatever, and did not see.
Oh,
And then she ended up going to her pastor, confiding into a pastor, and basically didn't come out and say, yes, I was raped, but that's for 7 months she was abused. It was just like all of these stories was just like, oh my gosh. Um, and I don't even know where I'm going with this, but oh, so the Bible that I bought, um, it was called, and I have to go get it because I have to tell you what it is. Hang on, y'all. It's called the Care and Counsel Bible. And it is
oh,
amazing because they talk about, the best you know, the best counsels, you're having a cup of coffee with your girlfriends. And in the book, it breaks everything down in the beginning of topics. So the Care and Counsel Bible topic index. So it has um, abortion, abuse, adultery, anxiety, attachment blessings, bitterness, blended families. Like it just goes on and on and on. So God's promises, genetic issues, forgiveness, gossip, and it tells you where in the Bible to go to get counsel.
wow.
I'm like, I love it. I
That's
absolutely love
amazing.
it. So, of course, when you were sitting there, yeah. So,
Yeah,
yes, that was
this is my Bible with all my tabs. And I literally have, oh my gosh, I just opened it to Job again.
no.
But on the end, and I wrote, like, because I would write when I finished it,
Mm-hmm.
when I started reading.
It.
Um, I mean, just amazing. Like here on Chronicles, I finished reading it 8/29/2019. So I would mark, when I started reading it, how long it took me to read it. And yeah, it's not an easy book to read.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
so, but what I would do is I would call my friend Betty and I'd say, okay, I am so stuck on this. Like, what does this mean? And she was just amazing. So we would have our own quasi Bible studies as I read. And it took me a year.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through my treatment and, obviously, so that was really my saving grace, knowing that, because everyone would say, oh my God, how much more can you take? I know God only, gives you what you can handle, but wow, this is a lot. How are you doing it? I have very strong faith. I have great friends, most of which I was isolated from for a long time. So the minute they heard the issues that were going on with me, because they just didn't want to be around because as long as I was with him, they wanted nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what helped me, that and after my treatment, being able to have a glass of red wine while I'm reading after I put the boys down was nice. And just talking to my friends, I mean, that's what got me through all that stuff. And it when people say it back to me, I think, ooh, that is a lot. But when you're in it,
In it.
you're just, you do what you have to do. I mean, I would crawl on my hands and knees because my boys still need help dressing. They don't dress themselves. I would crawl on my hands and knees like the army crawl to their room, dress them on my hands and knees, go down the stairs on my butt, catch my breath, go in, get them their Cheerios and milk, which was easy because they have dry cereal, dried Cheerios in a bowl, and then their cups.
Help him.
They take handful, they don't mix them. So it's real easy. And
Mhm.
then the bus, the bus driver was amazing. She would literally pull the bus up in the driveway so I didn't have to walk
Walk.
too far.
Mhm.
And then I would get them on the bus and I would sit on my porch, and I'm sure everybody, all my neighbors thought, oh, she's so sweet. She's watching, until the bus goes out of sight. No, I was just catching my breath. I
Breath.
was winded. My hemoglobin was through the floor. So the slightest thing would wind me. And then I'd crawl back upstairs and I'd climb into bed and I'd sleep for a few hours. And then, I would get up and just get ready for them to come home from school. And then they had in-home ABA therapy,
Okay.
after school. So that was a big help too, because that kept them occupied. But I could, if I was having a bad day or, I was able to kind of rest a little bit longer. But it looking back, I know it was bad. I know there were times where I turned completely gray. I had mouth sores. I couldn't eat. It was bad. But the minute I would see the boys, it was like something clicked in my head. A switch went off, and I was like, no, no, no. They cannot know anything's wrong with me.
Mhm.
It can't mess up their day to day. So that was my focus. And then I was so driven by that. I was so
Mhm.
driven by making sure they didn't miss a beat.
Right.
And, that's what got me through it. That, my friends, and reading the Bible. I mean, you jump into this book and you really do. It's because it's not just reading a book. I mean, I had other workbooks that I'd have to say, okay, what, looking
Mhm.
up things that I'm reading. So it really was consuming in a great way,
Right.
really kept me out of my own head.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that was huge because, the divorce, that didn't phase me at all. My thing was, I'm cutting the toxicity out of my life,
Mhm.
literally and figuratively. So it wasn't, that aspect of that time wasn't bad at all because I knew I was doing what I needed to
To
do
do.
for myself and the
The
boys.
boys, yeah. Did they have any questions going through or like asking, well, where is daddy? Or like when you lost your hair or like if you didn't feel good, like did they ask any questions or what?
They're nonverbal.
Okay. Well, yeah, she did
So
say that.
that's okay. That's okay. But so I decide, because I said if the boys are afraid if with me being bald, I will get a wig. I really just didn't want to do the wig thing, but I said if it affects them, I will. So I shaved my head myself. I came downstairs and Nick looked at me and his jaw dropped. Like he went, and I said, it's okay, it's mommy. And I sat down on the couch. He jumped on my lap and he was rubbing my head. And then John looked over and he was like, and then he came over and sat and he was rubbing my head. The good news is my dad is bald. He shaved his head. He shaves his head. So, there, it's not a scary thing for
Thing
them.
for
So
them.
once they were fine with it, I said, okay, I'm not doing the wig. I used to just wear knit caps and it was great. I mean, my time to, if I had to go anywhere, all I had
Mhm.
to do was put my eyebrows on and out the door I went. The
Mhm.
showers were easy. I saved so much money on shampoo and conditioner. I mean, it's amazing how much you spend on hair products. And I
Yeah.
used to have really long hair. So I had everything and the best of everything, and it was very liberating. And as you can see now, I just keep my hair really short.
Sure.
It's just easier because when my hair did grow out after all the treatment, what was I doing? Just putting it on the top of my head. So I'd
Mhm.
have like 5 pounds of hair on my head. I'd have a headache by 2 o'clock.
So true.
So I just said, this is stupid. it's stupid. How many hair clips can I go through? And that was the other thing. The boys loved the clips, so they were breaking them constantly.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
What do you have any what kind of hobbies do they like? Have you tried getting them into like therapeutic horseback riding or like music
haven't
therapy
done
or
that. I was going to do that in New Jersey, but we left before that because they had several places that offer that. Um, they love being on swings. As far as hobbies go, it's basically any game I will play with them or anybody.
Mhm.
They love people. I mean, the Amazon delivery guy, God bless him. He would come up to the door and the boys would be like, yeah, and he was real great with them. They love to be tickled. They love wrestling. The problem is they're getting bigger.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it was actually just last week I'm wrestling with them, and so I'm flat on the floor and they're on top of
Top of
me
you.
and I'm trying to tickle them, and I realized I can't get up. And so now I'm laughing because I can't get up. They're laughing because I'm laughing, and I'm thinking I can't get up. Like I cannot get up. And I couldn't even push them off of me because they're just getting so big now.
Mhm.
And so, but because I was laughing, I'm laughing and saying, please get off, mommy. But because I'm laughing, they're like, oh no, we're still playing.
Uh-huh.
And it was hilarious. And I'm thinking, I don't know. They do, I have a keyboard, so they have started when they were younger, they played on it, but now they're really getting into all the different effects that's on the
Mhm.
keyboard, the different sound buttons. And I mean, I don't know, maybe Nick's going to be a DJ.
Mhm.
And they do have their talk assisted devices
Okay.
that they, can tell me what they want if I don't figure it out
Wow.
immediately. Usually by looking at them, I know. It's like I
Right.
know when they have to go to the bathroom. I know if they want, their veggie sticks. I just kind of know. And my
Mhm.
mom was the same way. She was the only other person besides me who just by looking at them would know what they
You.
wanted. But unfortunately, she passed. That was one of the reasons I'm back here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because my mom made me promise that I was going to go back and be closer to my older kids. Because she was like, they need their mom too.
Mhm.
And so that's why I'm back there. And hopefully my dad will come out, but he's just, he doesn't want to leave the house, which I understand. But yeah, she was a huge help for me, and to not have that
That
now. Because I don't have a babysitter. I don't have anybody that I could trust. And I have my older children, but they're older. They have lives. I don't want to depend on them because they'll never tell me no.
yeah.
If they have plans and I say, oh, guys, can, one of you come sit with the boys for a little bit? I want to do whatever. They're not going to tell me no. And then it would make me feel horrible if I found out that they passed up doing something because they wanted to help me with the boys, and they love being around their little brothers, and the
Yeah, so I was
boys
gonna ask
love.
how's their relationship with them?
It's really good. When my youngest son Trevor walks in the door, the boys are like, because he's big, they're just like, and they'll use him as a jungle gym, a
Mhm.
human jungle gym. And with my son Jake, he's such a calming energy. So when he walks in, the boys are just calm and sweet. And my daughter, who is extraordinary, she's actually going to be doing her own children's show. She's basically Pee Wee Herman meets Steve Irwin and Mr. Rogers. She saves all farm animals. She has blue hair.
Get out, that's awesome.
She's this brilliant, brilliant, brilliant girl. Double major from USC, and she's just saving animals. She's just having a blast. So when she comes, when they're around her, her energy, she's always wearing bright colors. She is very, very animated, and the energy just is through the roof. So when she walks in, they're just like,
Uh-huh.
so it's so interesting. They get something different from each one of their
them.
older siblings, and they love it.
And how old are they?
So my daughter is 30.
Okay.
My son Jake is 29, and Trevor is 24.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so yeah, and Trevor wants to go to medical school. He they're my three children from my good ex-husband.
Okay.
It's married twice. So, and my ex is a dermatologist in Beverly Hills, and Trevor's gonna take over for him. And so he's, very good with, if the boys have a sure whatever he could look. And, it's just, I needed to be here for a lot of reasons, but it's really good for the boys because it's just me. And no matter how much fun I try to make it, it's me, and they're bored, and they are on their iPads a lot. Which, as whether you have special needs children or neurotypical children, if you're a single mom, that is your babysitter. And, people say, you need to take that away. That's too much. They're on it too much. But what about all the kids on their iPhones, texting and on TikTok and doing this? It's the same thing.
Yep.
So, but I would like to say, for all the single parents out there, if your children are on the iPads, the only thing you should do is make sure they're not on anything crazy, but at least it's some kind of stimulation when you need to get dinner ready, or you're doing the laundry, or you're doing something where you can't keep your eyes on them, but you need them to be safe. Because if they're focused on the iPads, they're sitting down somewhere. They're not roaming around. So, I mean, if anybody gives you grief about that, just point out, oh, well, but it's okay for everybody to be on iPhones.
Yeah. Yeah. Do the boys ever, I did an interview with a friend of mine, and her son is actually into music and he plays the drums, and his other brother, I interviewed him as a one of the siblings, and so they have a band together. But anyway, he had his nights and days mixed up. Do the boys go through that? Have they gone through any of that?
I can't even tell you, because I hear the horror stories. I have friends that have to lock their child in the room at night, because they will literally leave the house. Again, this is why I can't complain for so many reasons, but this one in particular, we have a routine. They have dinner, we play for a little bit, they take their baths, and they go to bed. And I do a little thing with them. We say our prayers, and then I say a little mantra to each of them before they go to sleep. I tuck them in, I turn off the light, close the door, and that's it. They wake up. Now it depends, and that's usually, so by 9:30 they're asleep.
Okay.
And they'll wake up anywhere from 5:30 to 6:30. Okay. There was a time where they were getting up at 4:30, which was rough. But thank God that I haven't had those, but they sleep through the only time they don't is if they're not feeling well, if they're sick. And I still, I have the monitor right on my nightstand. And I watch them, because I won't go to sleep until they're asleep. But I'm incredibly, incredibly blessed that they sleep through the night, and they have, since they were babies. So that is one thing that I don't have to worry about. So I at least get a good night's sleep.
Good. What about since you've moved, have you met a lot of other families with kids with special needs? Have you found like kind of your people, if you will, or
You know, I'm in an apartment complex, which is new to me. You know, we were in a house before. And the boys now take the bus home. I bring them to school in the morning, but they take the bus home. And so there's another girl that I met, and she's a single mom, and her son is verbal. He's a couple years younger than the boys, but he has other behaviors. And so I met her. So we talk, and she's telling me, "Oh, you have to contact the regional center, and you have to do this, and there's so much you can do. You have to do it." So I'm doing all that stuff, applying for everything and anything, and it's just the difference in California is the waiting lists. You're on it for a long time. So
mm-hmm.
it's kind of like hurry up and wait.
Yeah. Yeah. So Faith was on the developmental disability waiver from the time I feel like she was like 7 years old when I put her on. And her name didn't come up until she was 17. So yeah, so it's crazy. But I also find too, and make sure you look into the differences between the autism waiver and the developmental disability waiver, because I know here in Maryland, you get more with the developmental disability waiver than you do the autism waiver. So you got to look at those, but the two of them as well. But yeah, it's crazy how long a wait did these families have to wait to get that extra help.
Yeah, well, they're even saying just for the ABA therapy, because they don't have ABA therapy now, that the waiting list for that is about a year. So, but the good news is because they were doing it at the house in New Jersey for so long, I was there, so I
Yeah,
would
so
pay
yeah.
attention. And like during COVID, when I was working with the boys, that was a whole other geez, doing
Well,
that.
yeah, having to do that and do virtual and having to work on top of that by yourself. Yeah.
It was rough, but we did it. We got through
Mhm.
it. The boys did not like me being their teacher. It's with them, you are mom.
Mhm.
And so when we were because I had in the house, I had a room, it was their therapy room in my office. And so we were sitting at the computer, and the teacher would be on the screen, and I would have headphones on, and she would be helping me, guiding them, doing the hand over hand and all the different things. And the boys were not having it.
Mhm.
They did not like it. It got to the point where I had to really coerce them into the therapy room.
Yeah.
It was like they did not like that mom was being their teacher.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, um,
What are your
so
biggest fears as a single mother with two special needs children?
what
What are
happens to them if something happens to me?
Mhm.
That's my biggest fear.
Mhm.
I try not to think about it. You learn in the Bible, you're not supposed to worry about tomorrow,
Mhm.
but as a special needs parent, it's hard not to.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm constantly saying, please forgive me. I know I'm not supposed to be thinking that far ahead. I know I'm not supposed to be worrying about that, but it's true. I mean, that keeps me up at night.
Yeah. That's why I think I'm so like ADHD, if you will. Like I always have my hands in something. I'm always involved in something. I can't just sit still, because it's when I sit still, then
Right.
that's
Right.
then
Right.
that's the
And
kind of stuff all I think about. And
exactly.
it is.
Yeah.
It's tough. And I have, and then I'm selfish because I think, okay, my son is in the army. He's deployed right now. And I think, God forbid
Oh,
something happened to him. But
oh
then
God.
again, it's not his place to take care of his sister either if
Right.
something happens to us. And then, or what if he is a lifer and then he was wherever he's stationed or
Right.
whatever, who's going to be here we don't have a lot of family. I have nobody to take her. She
Right.
doesn't want to go into a home.
Right.
So, all of those questions.
It's frightening. And I have a similar situation. You know, I have my three children, but again, it's not just, and Trevor's like, Mom, I'll be their guardian. I'm going to be a doctor. I'll be in the best position, you know, to take care of them. He still has to go through medical school. He's got, anything can happen. You know, they say you want to make God laugh, make plans. So, you know, and it's not just the emotional and physical issues that somebody caring for them has to take on. It's a financial drain. And you know, especially in I have able accounts for the boys, but there's virtually nothing in there because their father doesn't pay any support.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to get the $150,000 that he owes, I would just literally split it in half, put it, you know, each of their accounts, let it grow. So when I'm not here, at least I know they're not going to be a financial burden to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I just, you know, and it's hard. Like it's not our other children's responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to take care of them. And so it is frightening to me. Like I think, you know, and then I think if something happens to me, you know, if their father finds out, like he can get money from the state or something, you know, oh, I'll take them and lock them in the room and just drink their money away. You know, I just, it's just it's frightening. And when I do think about that, it's debilitating. That's why I have to, like, in my head I'm like, cancel because I don't know. And it's interesting, when I was first diagnosed, and I'm not proud of this, but I've asked for forgiveness because statistically, with my prognosis being as bad as it was, I sat in my room and because the thought of what happens to the boys, no one is going to get them like I do. No one is going to love them as much as I do. No one is going to take care of them as well as I do. What is going to happen to them? What, like, just the fear of that. And I thought, well, if I'm terminal and there's nothing that can be done and blah, 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 I literally thought I will get in the car, go in the garage, and take the boys with me. Because at that point, that's how desperate, you know, you get when you think, because you think that would be more humane than what would happen to them when you're not there to take care of them, especially because my boys are nonverbal. They are the most vulnerable. They cannot, if they're being abused, if you won't know. And so, and I'm not proud of that. And it was just that one thought. And, you know, then I just jumped into the book, prayed it off me. And for some reason, I didn't feel that way. And I was going through the treatment and everything. And I never had that feeling again. But it is, I mean, for a single parent, you know, I think that's the common fear for all single parents. I mean, I don't know, I don't think there's any worse fear than that.
Yeah.
So
We finally just did our special needs standalone trust. And that's where we had to come up with the hard discussions, where I felt so much better once everything was done, once our wills were done, all that stuff was done, where my husband had a really, really hard time going through it and wanted to put it off. And we decided to go with an agency that actually will be the trustees. So instead of putting that financial responsibility on my son, this way he can be the big brother and help her make those informed decisions and that kind of stuff, and just be a brother. And then
Right.
this way they will actually deal with all the financial stuff.
Right.
So I do feel better about that piece, knowing, and they really do advocate, and they get to know the the individuals, and if they are in a home or whatever, and they ask for different updates all the time, so they know, and they've helped people and have advocated for people.
Right.
So at least they know when we're gone, at least that financial piece will be set up with them. But then again, it's back to okay, where's she gonna live? How's she gonna, because Social
Right.
Security ain't nothing.
No, no, no. And it's especially like for my boys, what I've realized with losing my mom, they don't understand. They still hand me her picture, and it's almost 2 years now. They'll still hand me her picture. Before we moved here, when my dad would come over, we would have pizza Fridays with my dad. He would walk in and they would look behind him
Looking for
her. And so they would say, well, just explain, you talk about Jesus, let them know that he's with Jesus. I'm like, my boys are too literal. They won't like him. Like, they'll be like, what do you mean Jesus took my nan? And I can't say things like, oh, she's up in heaven. They'll walk around all day looking for her.
Yeah.
And but they do know, they understand what not available means. So that's what I always say to them. Nan's not available, but they know that's temporary. So that's why, they'll wait a few days and then they hand me her picture again. And the therapist had told me, listen, you don't, because I said, I'm just going to take her picture off, because we use a PEC system at home. So there are pictures of everything. And I said, maybe I should just take her picture, down. And she said, no, because then you're removing their ability to express themselves. They're letting you know they want to see her, they miss her. If you take that away from them, they don't get to express it. And I'm thinking, oh, but it's heartbreaking when they do it.
Yeah.
So, but so just the idea that they would walk around, what do you mean mom's not here? I mean, they're with me when they're not in school 24/7. It is just me. So I couldn't imagine, what that would do to them. Not that I'm any great thing, but I am the most consistent thing in their lives.
Yeah.
And to not have that, I wonder how they would even begin to process that, and then worry about where they're going to go. Who's going to take care of them? I mean, I keep hoping that, as they get older, they are more independent, but here they are 11. I'm still working. John will go to the bathroom by himself, no problem. Nick, he doesn't have accidents, but I have to bring him into the bathroom. And he's like a camel. He'll hold it for days. Like so I mean, there's that, and I'm still dressing them. They're 11. And so I just think, what happens when they're bigger than me and stronger than me? They're real big on telling me no. That's the one, Nick will say no. John shakes his head no.
How do they show their frustrations?
They yell.
They yell.
They yell. And it's John has this Mariah Carey octave level blood curdling scream that he does. And I didn't think anything when we were in the house, and he would do it, and I would just be like, all right, buddy, I know it's not uploading, the video's not coming on, it's okay. Or, oh, God forbid the battery, goes dead on the iPad. And try to just kind of refocus him. But now that I'm in an apartment, I mean, I'm on the second floor. I have soundproofing, like the soundproofing tiles all over the floor. And with that scream though, and then it's like ping pong. If John makes that scream, Nick screams back. and it's literally like ping pong, and it goes right through you. And anybody listening to it or hearing it would think I'm killing them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm so paranoid thinking somebody's going to call the cops. I don't know what's going on in that apartment, but these boys are screaming. And so I've met all my neighbors and I've explained. But still, even, I mean, when I hear it, if I'm in the other room, sometimes John will just do, and I think, oh my God, he broke something, like his arm, his like something's broken. He hurt himself. And no, he just hands me the iPad because it's dead. And I'm going, John, you cannot scream like that. You just come out and you give it to mommy. You can't scream. And so, but that's what ABA was working on. So now that I don't have that, that's the one thing that I'm working on. And John does headbutting when he's frustrated. Nick pinches when he's frustrated. So they do when they're frustrated, it's, and I have to be on top of that. And it's hard. It's especially when I'm, in front of the computer working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm constantly jumping off because they get home. I still work until 6:30. So I take my lunch meeting the bus for them. I have enough time to meet the bus and we walk back to the apartment, and I get them any snacks they want, hand them their iPads, and I jump on the computer. And I have 3.5 more hours.
Yeah.
So it's not fun, but you know what? You do what you gotta do. I mean,
yeah.
I'm grateful, I'm able to live in an apartment. I mean, like I say, I changed my mindset with everything. I get to do laundry, I get to clean my house. I get to vacuum. I get to work. So these are, just changing that helps a lot. But there are my days, believe me, I have my moments where I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed today. I don't want to be me today. But you just do it. You just do it, because the minute you hear them, like this morning, even though we were late, just hearing them giggling in bed. And I'm thinking, yeah, they're giggling because they didn't get out of bed. They know I'm going to jump on the beds to tickle them and make them get out of bed. So, and just hearing that there's, and
the good thing is they have each other.
But they don't really hang out with each other.
Really?
Nope. One will be in my room, the other will stay in the living room. If John goes into the living room where Nick is, Nick will come into my room or go into his room. They do not, because they don't like to hear what the other one is playing or listening to on their iPad.
That makes sense.
So yeah. But at night, they got to sleep in the same room. So, but for the most part, because everyone said, oh, they'll entertain each other, blah, 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 built-in babysitter. Nope.
No.
Wow. Very independent.
Wow. So if there was one thing that you hope other parents can take away from your story, and any piece of advice or wisdom you have, what would it be?
That you can do it. You can absolutely do it. You can absolutely get through it. You will find the strength, even on the days where you don't think you have any. You will be able to do it because your driving motivation will always be the love you have for your kids. And so you'll do it. It seems like you won't be able to, but you will. When you're in it, you're just doing it. And so my thing would be just don't give up. Listen to other people's stories, not that, because every special needs child is different. but there are always little nuggets of great information that people have that they've done. Hey, I've tried this. My kids don't eat vegetables, but I found this veggie powder. You can put it in water. You can, things like, oh, wow, does that work? Because the other thing is, how much money we spend on all these special needs things and all these companies that come up with these cure-alls and this and that. You would do anything. I would sell a kidney if it meant that I could purchase something that is going to make my boys' lives better. And these companies know that, and they prey on people like us, which stinks. So that's why I say get in the groups with other parents. Don't buy into all the stuff they're selling on Instagram and everything else. Get in those parent groups, because that's where you'll read about stuff. And parents will say, well, I tried it. My son absolutely hated it. But then someone will say, well, hey, did you try mixing it in milk? That was better for my daughter. And that's where you go. You learn from other parents. It's just like the pre and post-op pictures in a cosmetic surgery office, right? They have the pre-op picture and the post-op picture. They can filter the hell out of those. So my thing is, you want to talk to that patient that had it done. You don't want to look at the pictures.
Yeah, that's so true.
So it's like, don't look at the pictures. Don't, just get with the parents that are going through it, that have tried everything, because not only will you save money, but it's just the little tidbits you learn along the way.
And the connections, and then you bond with them, and
and you're not alone. I mean, especially with autism now, I mean, the statistics are crazy, although they're lumping everything onto the spectrum now.
Yeah, that's true.
But any family that has a special needs child, if you could just talk to them, you'll learn so much. And you're getting authentic, real information. You're not getting a marketing fueled presentation. You're getting real life experience and help and wisdom. So
what's your word? So I sent you a little thingy about your word. We know that, words are very important. They can inspire us to do great things. They can remind us of the importance, or simply remind us to breathe and live in the moment, especially in the world we live in today. So what word would you choose, and why?
I have so many. Of course, there's grateful, there's grit, there's grace. I would just say grateful, because I am grateful. And I know when people hear my story, they're like, what the hell is wrong with her? But I'm grateful in that, the issues my boys have protect them from so much. They don't know what's going on in the world and how horrible it is. Everything going on in Israel, what happened in Maine. I mean, devastating things that could really affect them. Don't, because they're protected by the issues they have. They're protected from a toxic father. So I'm just grateful and that's why I'll never complain about their diagnoses, because they're protected in so many ways. God knew what he was doing, truly, because they're protected. And so I'm grateful for a lot. I'm grateful that I'm still here. I'm grateful that I'm well enough and strong enough to take care of them as well as I do. So I guess my word would I'm grateful for having this outlet with you. I mean, I just reading your stuff, it's tremendous. And I think what you're doing is amazing. And you're exactly what parents, whether you're single parenting or not. It's resources like you that need to have a bigger platform. I wish there was something, like the Kardashian platform that we could really just get out there. I mean, I'm trying.
I told Jamie, I sent her a treatment years ago, but I never heard nothing. I said, come on, girl, we gotta get something going.
Well, I will talk to her because I'm going to let her know that we talked. But I'm getting ready to launch my website, Divorce Help for Moms, because when I was going through it, there weren't the resources for free, that I needed. And so I kind of want to teach moms going through divorce, whether you have a lawyer or not, how to be your own best advocate. And not just going through divorce and post-divorce trauma, how to be your best advocate for everything. Self-care, just you are your own best advocate in every aspect of your life. Just like they tell us with our special needs children, you have to advocate for them. You have to advocate for them. Well, who's advocating for the parents that are literally hanging on by a thread?
Yeah. Yeah.
We need a bigger platform.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so mad that I didn't hit the bazillion-dollar lotto out here, because I would literally buy a bunch of land and create a community for our children where therapists and the medical personnel can live in houses for free. We would have a school, a post office, a market that our children could work in. And
did you ever take your boys, speaking of New Jersey and speaking of the malls?
We didn't get there. We didn't get to Lifetown. We didn't. They had opened and they were planning a class trip, but we were already out of school, because we left their last day of school, I think, was May 26th. Lifetown. I really, really wanted to go.
I haven't gone. I've said a few years ago I wanted to take Faith, and then I never did. But something like that. I mean, that stuff is just awesome.
Yeah.
And for anybody not knowing what we talk about, it's a mall that's tailored for people with special needs, and they go in, they can go grocery shopping, they have workers, it's amazing.
It's
awesome.
Yeah, it is. But we need like Kardashian level marketing, to really we need a lot of help. I mean, it really does take a village, and we really do need help, because the numbers are astounding. More and more children, especially with what they're putting in the foods and everything. So, I mean, we need a bigger platform. So I will talk to Jamie.
Well, I want to thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we got connected. And that Jamie put your name in there, and we got to do this. We definitely have to keep in touch.
Yes.
And then and I will do grateful. And I was going to say too, the other thing, if there's a scripture that you want, I could actually put the scripture, the name, the verse and chapter and verses. So if that's something instead of a word, just think on that, because I'm going to make it and then I'll mail it to you. And I do it on bracelets, necklaces, keychains, anklets. So, and it just ends on a round token, on a My Intent token. So
I love it. I love it.
So everybody, thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much, Laurieann, for being a guest. I really appreciate you being so vulnerable and taking the time. And it was a pleasure.
You're so welcome. Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us as we spread awareness through our personal stories and the many resources shared. You can help us by joining our village simply by sharing our show to the masses. If you would like to support the Guilbault Girls on another level, click on the link in the show notes to make a donation in any amount. Add your address and you'll receive a hand-stamped token with the word village on it in appreciation. Be sure to subscribe to our Guilbault Girls podcast and YouTube show, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Guilbault Girls. Till next time.